You can factor this. But if you think about the standard form of a circle, we did this yesterday. It was x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, right? You have these two like quadratics that are factored, right? So today in Learning Target 3, we're going to talk about a different form of a circle, and we need to rewrite it to get it into this form. But we have to go to factor, and they're not going to be factorable. So the easiest way to do it is just to complete the square. It's the easiest way. Okay? So you got to follow my steps. It's like 3. Okay. So if you're going to complete the square, you can't factor it. So the first thing you need to do is move any of the constants to the right-hand side of the equation. You want the x's on one side and the constants on the other, which goes against other types of factoring. But we can't factor this way we normally would, so we're doing something different. So we're going to move the 6 to the other side. When you're completing the square, it's called completing the square because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with, and not magically, I'm going to show you how, but I'm going to come up with a number that can go right here, this red spot, so that I can factor the left-hand side, so I can get the perfect square trinomial, so I just get x plus something squared, not 2 different ones, but just 1 squared.
So you just get to put whatever you want.
No. You don't get to put whatever you want. I'm going to show you what to put there. But the whole premise is that you're going to find the number that makes this a perfect square trinomial. Okay? So this is how you do that. On your note sheet, it says this. I'll go again. But remember in a quadratic, there's an a, a b, and a c. The a is the number in front of the x squared. The b is the number in front of the x. And the c would be the constant. Right? This is what you do. Find this number. You take b, you divide it by 2, and you square it. So, in this case, what is b? So we have 4 divided by 2, and we square it, which ends up being 4. It's not always the same. This one ends up being 4. So what you do is we put that in this spot right here. But when you're doing this, it's an equation. We have to make sure everything's equal on both sides. Since I added 4 to the left-hand side, I have to add 4 to the right-hand side too. So I added 4 to one side, you have to do it to the other side. That's how equations work. No, we'll talk about it.
Where do you get
I took b, which was 4, divided by 2, and squared it, which is also 4. Okay? All right. So right now I have x squared plus 4x plus 4, and that equals 10. That's what I have right now. What I need to do, though, is I need to be able to factor this, which is I should be able to now. I'm looking for 2 numbers you can multiply to get 4 that have to be 4. 2 and 2. When you factor a quadratic, you look for 2 numbers you can multiply to get c that add up to be b. So 2 and 2. So you have x plus 2 squared equals 10. Now, write this on your note sheet. If you're really bad at factoring, lucky for you, when you complete the square, this part in the parentheses is always x plus b divided by 2 squared. So whatever you got up here for b divided by 2, you would use again. So what was 4 divided by 2? 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, so that's what goes in the parentheses. I did not put that part on your note sheet. You won't write that down. How would we subtract? We put it in there. We put the 4 there. So we put the 4 on the other side too. That's it. Yes. I'm just saying, if you're really bad at factoring and you don't know how to get this number, it's whatever b divided by 2 is. That's it. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now, here's the problem. There are a lot of you like shortcuts. You're like, ooh, I know how to factor this now, so I don't need to do that middle part. You have to do the middle part, because if not, you won't get 10. You'll have 6 still. That messes some things up. Okay? Do I need to do another example? I'll do one more. No, you're going to do your homework. This is a good example anyway. In a second. Now, when you're completing the square, this is also good. I'm glad I'm doing this one. When you're completing the square, yeah, this is new. When you're completing the square, you have to have x squared. You can't have 2x squared, or 4x squared, or 7x squared, or 10x squared. You can only have x squared. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide everything by -2, because I have to have x squared. So my actual quadratic function is, yes, it means everything. So I've got -5x minus 11 equals -2. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to start following the steps we did last time. We can't factor the x squared minus 5x minus 11. It's not happening. So we need to get the x's by themselves and the constants together.
How do you know not to add?
Because we're going to have to get the x's by themselves and the constants together. So I'm going to move the 11. So I have x squared minus 5x equals 9. I did a blank there so that when I have to add that number in, I have a place for it. Right, so now I'm going to do b divided by 2 squared. So b is -5, so -5 divided by 2 squared. It's going to be a fraction. It'll be fine. What's -5 squared? And what's 2 squared? So plus 25 over 4 plus 25 over 4 it's going to be fine. Because I told you how to factor this 5 seconds ago. So I said earlier, I'm still staying true to this, you have x plus whatever b divided by 2 was squared. So this was b divided by 2, right? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, so notice that's negative. Well, that's what's going to go into the parentheses. So even though it looks like it's fraction, it's crazy, you already know how to factor it, so it's fine. So you have x minus 5 over 2 squared, because I put this right here.
Now then, how come you don't have to do the 9 plus 25?
We're going to add it together. We're just adding it, though. So how do I change 9 into a fraction with a 4 in the denominator? Yeah, so that'd be 36 over 4. So what's 36 plus 25? 61. And we're not solving anything, we're just factoring it. So what's all we got? It's these normally known fractions, it's fine. I multiplied 9 over 1 times 4 over 4.
So what are we trying to find?
We're just trying to factor. Yeah, we're not solving for x, no. In order to do, for learning target 3 later, for our circle stuff. Again, think about it. We have these 2 squared things, right? I don't really care what x and y equal. I'm just factoring. Okay? Because if you don't have this number over here. You have 9, and that's wrong. So you have to add it to both sides. So this 25 over 4 added here, I added over here too. Okay. Yesterday, we talked about standard form of a circle. And it had x minus h squared plus whatever. I wrote a 2 over 2. It's fine. equals r squared. That's very helpful. I can see the center in that, and I can find the radius from that. But there's also a different form of an equation that's not helpful. Sometimes circles are written in general form, which looks like this, which is a bunch of garbage that doesn't tell you anything. That is not helpful. I don't know the center or the radius or anything. I cannot graph from that. It is a mess. So what we're going to do is we're going to use completing the square that we just talked about 2 times to change the general form into the standard form. That's all we're doing. It is that easy. Okay, so your first question here. Again, remember there's 2 different factors for the circle equation, right? There's an x and a y. So I always, because I have to organize, if I don't organize, I get confused. I'm just going to rewrite all this and put all the x's together and the y's together and all the constants on the other side, just so it's all organized. That's all I'm doing. I'm rewriting this first step. Yes. So I have x squared minus 4x, I'm leaving a space, plus y squared plus 14y, and then I'm going to put the 47 on the other side. So all I did is I just rewrote that in a different order. That's all I did. I didn't do any math. I just rewrote it. Yes, I put the x's with the x's and the y's with the y's and the constant where it needed to go. Is everyone with me? Okay, so we're going to complete the square here, and we're going to complete the square here. Yeah. Just
47 for one and 47 for the other?
You don't use the 47 when you complete the square. It's just there. Okay, so in the purple, the x's. Just focus on that. Don't look at anything else. What do we need to do? You just did a bunch of these. Negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2 squared, which is, so I'm going to add 4 here, which means I also have to add 4 to the 47. Yeah? So far, so good. In the green. Again, ignoring everything else, now I'm just focusing on the green. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to do b divided by 2 squared. So that's 14 divided by 2 squared. So that's 7 squared, which is 49. So I'm adding 49 here and to the other side. You don't have to put the next step you don't do. I'm just going to write it all out so it's not all weird. I have x squared minus 4x plus 4. And I have y squared plus 14y plus 49. And that all equals 100. So we're getting really close to this form up here. I just need to factor like we just did when we completed the square. We haven't finished it yet, right? So for the x's, what number goes in the parentheses? Right, negative 2, right? And negative 4 over 2. That's minus 2. And then for the y's, we had 14 over 2, that's 7. So y plus 7. And that's it. It's the same thing we just did. Yes, Luke? Yes. Yes. This is why this is helpful. This question specifically doesn't ask you, but I could ask you in a quiz or test. Once you rewrote this, I should be able to tell you the center and the radius of the circle. So, what is the radius of the circle? 10. R squared is 100, right? This is R squared. So, R has to equal 10. If I want to know the center of the circle, now, before you start screaming out things, remember the original equation has negatives in here. So, the center would be at 2, negative 7. See how that's helpful? And this is not helpful.
Not helpful.
Okay? Interesting. All right, I'm going to do the second example. If you don't think you need it and you want to start on your homework, you can. But it means you have to be quiet while I finish the second one.
Rewrite the article.
You don't have to. Yep. All right, on the second one, there's a 2 on both of the variables. Luckily for us, it's the same, so you divide everything by 2. So you have x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 4y plus 17. They won't for a circle. All right, then I'm going to rewrite it like I did it before, where I put the x's together and the y's together and move the 17 to the other side. And I'm just going to complete the square. So negative 10 divided by 2 squared is 25. And 4 divided by 2 squared is just 4. So negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then negative 17 plus 25 plus 4 is 12. So, the Learning Target 2 homework you did in class. It's only those 6 that I circled. You did it. I'll check it tomorrow so you get credit, but you already did it. So Learning Target 3 homework is due tomorrow. And there's only 4 questions.
Good. That's a lot.